A tale of two towns, Orania and Kleinfontein. These towns, though small in size, hold a significant place in the narrative of South Africa's complex history and its ongoing journey towards unity and reconciliation. South Africa, a nation forged in the crucible of racial division where the scars of apartheid still linger in the collective memory of its people. The apartheid era, marked by systemic racial segregation and discrimination, left an indelible mark on the nation's social fabric. Despite these deep-seated divisions, South Africa has been striving for unity and reconciliation, a process that has been both challenging and inspiring. The vision of a rainbow nation where people of all races and backgrounds can coexist harmoniously remains a guiding light for many, yet within its diverse tapestry lie two towns, Orania and Kleinfontein, that stand apart. These towns are not just geographical locations, but symbols of a particular cultural and historical narrative. They are bastions of Afrikaner identity and culture, places where the traditions and values of the Afrikaner community are preserved and celebrated. The Afrikaner people, descendants of Dutch settlers, have a unique cultural heritage that they seek to maintain in these enclaves. These towns, with their predominantly white populations, have become lightning rods for controversy. The very existence of such homogeneous communities in a country that prides itself on diversity raises questions and stirs emotions. They have ignited a debate about the legacy of apartheid and the future of a multiracial South Africa. Critics argue that these towns perpetuate the divisions of the past, while supporters claim they are simply exercising their right to cultural self-determination. This debate is not just about the past but also about the present and future. It touches on the core issues of identity, belonging, and the kind of society South Africa aspires to be. The legacy of apartheid is a heavy burden, and the path to a truly inclusive society is fraught with challenges. Orania, nestled in the arid heart of the Karoo region, is a town that embodies the spirit of Afrikaner self-reliance. Its remote location adds to its sense of isolation and self-sufficiency. It was established in 1991, a time of great upheaval and change in South Africa, just as the curtain fell on apartheid. The founders of Orania sought to create a place where they could preserve their cultural heritage and live according to their own values. The end of apartheid was a momentous event, symbolized by the release of Nelson Mandela and the beginning of a new era. However, for some, this new era brought uncertainty and a fear of losing their cultural identity. Orania is a community built on the ideals of self-determination and cultural preservation, a place where the Afrikaans language and heritage reigns supreme. The town operates with a high degree of autonomy, with its own schools, businesses, and local government. Kleinfontein, located near Pretoria, shares a similar ethos. It aspires to create a space where Afrikaners can live and thrive according to their own values and traditions. Like Orania, it is a community that values self-reliance and cultural preservation. The residents of Kleinfontein are committed to maintaining their cultural heritage, and the town is a reflection of their desire to live in a community that aligns with their values. Both towns are seen by their inhabitants as sanctuaries of Afrikaner culture in a rapidly changing world. These towns, while seemingly worlds away from the bustling metropolises of Johannesburg and Cape Town, are very much a part of the broader South African narrative. They represent a counterpoint to the urban centers that are characterized by their diversity and cosmopolitanism. Orania and Kleinfontein have become focal points of a national conversation about race, identity, and belonging in the Rainbow Nation. This conversation is not just about these two towns but about the broader issues of how South Africa deals with its past and envisions its future. Their very existence challenges the notion of a unified South Africa, prompting questions about the limits of tolerance and the meaning of reconciliation in a society still grappling with the ghosts of its past. The idea of a rainbow nation is a powerful one, but it is also a work in progress. The presence of these towns forces South Africans to confront difficult questions about their history and their future. Are these towns relics of a bygone era, clinging to the remnants of racial segregation? Or do they represent a legitimate expression of cultural identity, a right enshrined in the very constitution that sought to dismantle apartheid? The answers, as with most things in South Africa, are complex and multifaceted. The legacy of apartheid is not easily erased, and the journey towards a truly inclusive society is ongoing. These towns are a part of that journey, representing both the challenges and the possibilities that lie ahead. Orania and Kleinfontein are more than just towns. They are symbols of a broader struggle for identity and belonging, in a country that is still healing from its past. They remind us that the path to reconciliation is not straightforward, and that the quest for unity requires ongoing effort and understanding. As South Africa continues to navigate its complex history and diverse society, the stories of Orania and Kleinfontein will remain a crucial part of the national dialogue. They challenge us to think deeply about what it means to be a part of the Rainbow Nation and how we can move forward together. The Constitution of South Africa, a document that represents hope and progress, enshrines the right to cultural self-determination. This right is at the heart of the debate surrounding these towns, highlighting the tension between individual freedoms and collective unity. The answers, as with most things in South Africa, are complex and multifaceted. The legacy of apartheid is not easily erased, and the journey towards a truly inclusive society is ongoing. These towns are a part of that journey, representing both the challenges and the possibilities that lie ahead. Into this fray steps the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, a political party known for its fiery rhetoric and bold actions. The EFF has never shied away from controversy, often making headlines with their uncompromising stance on various social and economic issues. Led by Julius Malema, a charismatic and often polarizing figure, the EFF has positioned itself as a champion of the marginalized and the disenfranchised. Malema's speeches are known for their passionate delivery and unfiltered criticism of the status quo. His ability to connect with the masses and articulate their frustrations has earned him both fervent supporters and staunch critics. Malema's leadership style is as much about inspiring hope as it is about challenging the existing power structures. Recently, the EFF has turned its attention to Orania and Kleinfontein, two towns that have become symbols of racial exclusivity in post-apartheid South Africa. These towns, predominantly inhabited by white Afrikaners, have sparked a national debate about race, identity, and the meaning of true freedom. The EFF argues that the existence of such towns is a direct violation of the South African Constitution, which enshrines the principles of equality and non-racialism. They contend that these communities are relics of a painful past that should have no place in a democratic society. According to the EFF, Orania and Kleinfontein are not just harmless cultural enclaves, but are instead active reminders of apartheid-era segregation. They argue that allowing these towns to exist perpetuates a form of racial division that undermines the progress made since the end of apartheid. The EFF's legal challenge is rooted in the belief that true unity and reconciliation can only be achieved by dismantling all forms of racial segregation. They see Orania and Kleinfontein as antithetical to the vision of a united South Africa, where all citizens are treated equally regardless of their race. The party's stance is that the existence of racially exclusive communities is a betrayal of the sacrifices made by those who fought against apartheid. They argue that the dream of a rainbow nation cannot be realized if pockets of racial exclusivity are allowed to persist. We cannot claim to be a nation united when we allow for the existence of places where people are excluded based solely on the color of their skin, Malema has declared. His words resonate with many who believe that the fight for equality is far from over. Malema's rhetoric is powerful and evocative, often drawing on the historical injustices of apartheid to make his case. He argues that the struggle for a truly inclusive society requires confronting uncomfortable truths and challenging entrenched privileges. The EFF's challenge has sparked a national conversation about the limits of freedom of association and the responsibilities that come with it. While some see the party's actions as a necessary step towards greater social justice, others view it as an overreach that threatens cultural autonomy. The debate is complex and multifaceted, touching on issues of historical memory, cultural preservation, and the ongoing struggle for equality. Supporters of the EFF argue that dismantling racially exclusive communities is essential for healing the wounds of the past. Opponents, however, argue that such actions infringe on the rights of communities to self-determination and cultural expression. They contend that the right to associate freely is a fundamental aspect of a democratic society, and that forcing integration could lead to further division. For some, the EFF's stance is seen as a necessary step towards dismantling the vestiges of apartheid and fostering a more equitable society. They believe that true reconciliation requires addressing the root causes of inequality and ensuring that all citizens have equal opportunities. For others, it is perceived as an attack on cultural identity and an infringement on the rights of communities to determine their own destiny. The challenge posed by the EFF has brought to the forefront the delicate balance between individual rights and the collective good, a debate that continues to shape the future of South Africa. Standing in staunch opposition to the EFF's challenge is the Freedom Front Plus, VF Plus, a political party that advocates for the interests of Afrikaners. The VF Plus has long been a voice for the Afrikaner community, emphasizing the importance of preserving their unique cultural identity in a rapidly changing South Africa. They argue that their mission is not one of exclusion, but of protection and celebration of their heritage. The VF Plus views Orania and Kleinfontein not as bastions of racial exclusivity, but as expressions of self-determination and cultural preservation. These towns are seen as safe havens where Afrikaners can practice their traditions, speak their language, and live according to their values without external interference. The VF Plus believes that, in a multicultural society, there should be room for all groups to maintain their distinct identities. They argue that these towns provide a space where Afrikaners, who they believe are marginalized in post-apartheid South Africa, can find solace and community. The VF Plus contends that the Afrikaner community has faced significant challenges in the new South Africa, including economic marginalization and cultural erosion. They see Orania and Kleinfontein as necessary responses to these challenges, can celebrate their heritage and live according to their own values. These towns are not just about preserving the past, but also about creating a future where Afrikaner culture can thrive. The VF Plus envisions these communities as models of self-reliance and cultural pride. Orania is not about excluding others, argues VF Plus leader Peter Grunewald. It is about preserving our language, our culture, our way of life. Grunewald emphasizes that the Afrikaner community has a right to self-determination, just like any other cultural group. He argues that this right is enshrined in both South African and international law, and that it is essential for the survival of Afrikaner identity. The VF Plus maintains that Orania and Kleinfontein are not racially exclusive, but rather culturally specific, open to anyone who shares their values and aspirations. They point out that the criteria for living in these towns are based on cultural affinity, not race. The VF Plus argues that this approach is no different from other cultural or religious communities around the world that seek to preserve their way of life. They point to the fact that these towns have their own constitutions, which they claim are compliant with South African law, ensuring that their practices are legally sound and transparent. These constitutions outline the governance structures and community rules, aiming to create a harmonious and self-sustaining environment, and that they receive no special treatment or funding from the government. The VF Plus stresses that these towns are self-funded and self-reliant, relying on the contributions and efforts of their residents. They argue that this independence is a testament to the viability and resilience of their model. They argue that Orania and Kleinfontein are simply exercising their right to self-determination, a right enshrined in international law and recognized by the United Nations. The VF Plus believes that their efforts are in line with global principles of cultural preservation and autonomy. They see their struggle as part of a broader movement for the rights of minority communities worldwide. However, critics argue that this is a disingenuous argument, a smokescreen for maintaining the racial divisions of the past. They contend that the very existence of these towns perpetuates a form of segregation, even if it is not explicitly based on race. Critics argue that true integration and reconciliation cannot occur while such enclaves exist. They point to the fact that these towns remain overwhelmingly white, with few if any non-white residents, suggesting that the cultural criteria are a thinly veiled form of racial exclusion. Critics highlight the lack of diversity in these communities as evidence that they are not as open and inclusive as the VF Plus claims, and that their cultural projects often seem designed to exclude those who do not share their Afrikaner heritage. They argue that these projects reinforce a sense of otherness and division, rather than fostering a truly inclusive society. The debate over Orania and Kleinfontein therefore goes to the very heart of what it means to be South African in the 21st century. It is a debate about identity, about belonging, about the legacy of the past and the promise of the future. This debate forces South Africans to confront difficult questions about their history and their vision for a united nation, about the legacy of the past and the promise of the future. As South Africa continues to evolve, the conversation around these towns will likely influence broader discussions about national identity and cohesion. And it is a debate that is likely to continue for many years to come. The future of Orania and Kleinfontein will be a litmus test for South Africa's ability to balance cultural preservation with the ideals of a diverse and inclusive society.